The Everlasting Wonka, Chapter 7, In the Muse. Inspiration and creativity blossomed in his mind. All his jagged thoughts became consolidated and solidified into one picture-perfect tapestry. A muse is a label given to someone or something that inspires original and innovative ideas, some type of being or entity that gives visionary concepts so the one needing and receiving it can bring that burst of art to life. Charlie could not control himself. "A muse! A muse! A muse! A muse!" he kept exclaiming, getting progressively louder each time he repeated it. He catapulted out of the bed, ran through the factory halls and rooms. He barged into his parents' room, which had been specially equipped with healthcare needs and Oompa Loompa medical staffing. He leaped into the middle of the one big bed they both shared, waking them from their deep sleep. Charlie never knew whether they would be sleeping or awake or even alive. However, Charlie brought them into... Okay, cat, come on. However, Charlie brought them to consciousness quickly. Their eyes flew wide open, disbelieving what they were actually seeing. Charlie was jumping so hard he almost bounced them out of the right out of bed. He continued to shout louder and louder, "Amuse! Amuse! Amuse, Mom! Amuse, Dad!" His parents looked at each other in wonderment. They had seen some very strange and bizarre behavior from Mr. Wonka and Charlie, but this was beyond explanation. Mrs. Bucket said to her husband, "What does he mean, dear?" Although they were both hard of hearing, they could not help but hear Charlie's overexcited cheering. His father replied, "It's not what he means, dear. It is what he is meant to do." When Mr. Bucket uttered those last few words, Charlie abruptly froze, almost in midair. Charlie looked down at his dad and whispered with a smile, "Say it again, Dad. Say it again." There was a certain desperation in their son's voice. His father swallowed hard, looked at his wife, and then back to his son. Charlie riveted his attention on his dad as Mr. Bucket repeated, "It's not what you mean, Charlie. It is what you are meant to do." Then, as if Charlie's dad could read his mind, his father said slowly, "It is what you were meant to do, what you are meant to be. It is your contribution to the entire world, Charlie, as only the Candyman can." Charlie dropped to his knees right there in the center of their bed. He spoke softly, but his parents were able to hear him. "Mom, Dad, you mean more to me than anything else in life, and the words I just heard from you provided me with the missing link, the final ingredient I need to bring this factory, with all of its glory, back to life." His mom lit up, as if a radiant angel flowed into her body. Charlie never saw her face beaming with such joy as she uttered the long-awaited and victorious statement, "Amuse," as in amusement. She smiled even wider and began to laugh out loud. "An amusement park, Charlie? Ha ha ha!" Charlie sprang to his feet and said, "That's right," and he jumped up and leaned back. He yelled, "An amusement park! An amusement park! Woohoo! Woohoo!" He landed on his back, still directly in the center of their bed. Upon landing, he burst out into laughter. His exuberant, childlike joy and was contagious. They all began to laugh as if they were silly, giddy schoolkids. The Oompa Loompas laughed also, but then again, they were always laughing. Charlie jumped up and they all grabbed hands. Charlie could hardly speak, having lost all control of his composure. He just kept repeating, almost unintelligible and unstoppable sing-song chant. An amusement park. Amusement park. Amusement park. Amusement park. Amusement park. Like singing monks, the Oompa Loompas joined in as the mantra continued. An amusement park, an amusement park, an amusement park. Building an amusement park was exactly what everyone needed to bring back the whole spirit of Willy Wonka. Charlie sat in bed with his parents for 4 days, working with them as a CEO or president of another company would with their board members. They ate all their meals right there in bed while they bounced ideas off of each other. Some concepts they had only dreamed of making into reality long ago, and many other new ones evolved right there and then, very rapidly. As a tightly knitted sweater, they all joined their ideas into a warm quilt of amusement. When Charlie's parents would doze off unavoidably into slumber, Charlie continued. He relentlessly put into place all the necessities to erect an exclusive signature amusement park unlike any other in the world. Charlie was even able to use some of Mr. Wonka's original plans he used while building the palace for an Indian prince. He remembered that structure was a disaster only because of the heat from natural sunlight. Or was it the fact that the prince did not begin to eat it right away? This made Charlie smile. Natural sunlight is what the factory was missing. He realized outside of the factory would be the perfect environment for a palace. Everything in the park could revolve around such a monument. He laughed out loud in glee, realizing that with the right formula, he could make the building structure last forever. Fears that haunted him from the horrible experience with the outdoor candy garden were pushed far from his mind. In an amusement park setting, he would be in control. There would be security, proper guidelines, trusted operators, and other general employees who would receive a good pay to help take care of and contribute to the future of the park. As his parents took their cat naps, Charlie sat in the center of their bed, legs crossed, and let his dreams soar limitlessly. The whole time Charlie wrote nothing down. He could see in his head a clear vision of the factory and the ground around it, turning into a place of enjoyment that would grow, bloom, and continue to advance, constantly developing into more. He was able to envision the what, where, when, how, why, and who of each newborn idea. At the end of the 4th day, Charlie jumped up and walked briskly through the various halls that led from one room to another, talking out loud to himself. He waved his arms manically here and there, pointing out what was going to take place throughout the entire factory. It was as if he was a professional tour guide leading a crowd behind him with a memorized script, giving note to the surrounding highlights. He walked faster and faster until he was literally running down and around through the long corridors, darting in and out of rooms, the whole time continuing his monologue, proclaiming such things as, "And here We'll build a roller coaster that dives into and through a wall of whipped cream, covering its thrill-seeking riders with a light, sweet texture. He had already configured how the wall of cream would be reconstructed and ready for the next exhilarating stream of oncoming roller coaster cars packed with fun seekers eager to blast their way through. He could see, taste, and hear the impact, with cream flying everywhere. An electrical excitement surged through Charlie's body and mind, occupying his very being. This hype and eccentric presence had not been present since Willy Wonka originally developed the factory. In Charlie's mind, the chocolate waterfall became a spiraling slide with several dips and swoops. To get to the top of it, on the other side, was a challenging rock climbing course with 3 different skill levels, all made out of the best rock candy, of course. Guests of all ages would enjoy the climb as well as the taste. Charlie came to a long hallway that held lots of memories. He stopped, closed his eyes, and took a deep breath. He could smell all flavors of candy. Opening his eyes, he turned his head toward the wall and licked the wallpaper. He smiled and said, "The schnozberries still taste like schnozberries. We are still the music makers, and we are still the dreamers of dreams. Thank you, Mr. Wonka." On to chapter 8.